Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast, your go-to source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We hope you tune in often for all things people management, organizational development and change, organizational leadership, and social impact related. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I talk with Luke Arrigoni about the impact of AI and deep machine learning on human capital. Luke Arrigoni, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm super excited to explore a really important, timely topic. It's one we've discussed on the podcast before, and I always love when I get an expert in this area because it's just a really deep conversation, and it's one that needs to be had as we learn more and more. We're going to be talking about the impact of AI and deep machine learning on human capital in the world of work. As we get started, I wanted to share Luke's bio with everybody. Over the last 15 years, Luke Arrigoni has worked with some of the top brands in the United States building machine learning and data science programs, even before there was such a term. He worked with companies such as UPS, J&J, Getty, AT&T, Stryker, Goldman Sachs, Fox, Sephora, along with many, many others. He has media experience explaining to audiences at Bloomberg, Wired, and others on topics such as data's impact on politics, machine learning, blockchain, and other ways that technology intersects in a big way in everyone's day-to-day life. And Luke, I could go on and on, but I suspect knowing you a little bit and how we've talked in the pre-interview, you'd prefer we just get on with the conversation. So before we get going further, anything else you would like to add by way of your background, or we can?
No, I mean, that was great. Thanks for that intro.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start off a little bit with your background. Like I said in the bio, you're an expert in machine learning and data science, and you've worked with lots of companies in this area. And again, you've talked with organizations about the impacts of big data, on our everyday lives. Tell us a little bit about why you got into this area, why it's important to you, and why you feel like it's an important dialogue we need to be having as we continue to move into this field further.
Yeah, so I kind of fell into it. I was a math major, and I'm completely self-taught when it comes to computers. But I realized maybe 10 or 15 years ago that there could be profit made from all the data that's collected, whether it's trying to predict the right item for the right audience, the right time, or even, trying to hedge like insurance plans. Like, can we offer this kind of financial product for people? But whatever it may be, we had lots of data, and no one really knew what to do with it. And back then it was, can I create a line of best fit, like these old school math, techniques, this linear algebra, and very boring. I won't get too far into that, but it was cool, because you could basically apply this real academic principle to real practical data and outcomes like an industry changing piece of technology. And I love that combination, that like, let me combine this kind of boring, dry thing with boring, dry data. And what comes out is like a brain on your product. So I got pretty addicted to that. And I've been doing that for, a while now.
Yeah, that's super cool. And as you get more into this space and you're helping organizations better understand how they can utilize big data to drive strategic decision making and how they interface with their key constituencies and their customers, various stakeholders. What were some, especially early on, we've developed a lot over the last 10, 15 years. What were some of the biggest challenges, and how have you seen those roadblocks and challenges start to go away as our computing power and memory and the cost associated with all these things has changed?
It was really fascinating. Maybe 10 years ago now, we had the first blockchain boom, right, where people were buying GPUs en masse to try and process Bitcoins. It was like 2012, 2013-ish. and it was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna hit, Bitcoin's gonna hit $50 or at $100. Like we're talking triple digit. It finally had cracked, and people were talking about 1,000. And I bring all this up because there was a real big boom in GPU power then, where everyone really wanted more GPU power. They wanted it in a more consumable way, where you could put 4 or 5 GPUs in a single machine, and this drove the market to create these really fast GPUs. And before this age, people had come up with neural nets, and large companies like Google had been doing this, but with specialized hardware. But now, after anyone can go to Best Buy and buy a graphics card that can build a neural net, I mean, that was pretty changing for our industry. So maybe a little bit after that, a couple of years after that, it became real commonplace, where I can build a neural network that would otherwise require 1,000 CPUs, but instead I can put in a single card in my machine, and I can build something. I can experiment. I could just see, hey, is this even going to work? And it'd be affordable, a few $100s then. And that was, I think, the biggest barrier breaker for our industry, was getting real cheap computation in the form of GPUs.
Yeah. So as the price of that has continued to go down and access has gone up, now you have everyone and their dog able to do this,
absolutely.
right?
And
yeah. So the democratization of, big data and computing power, that's been a big part of, as we've also seen, the growth of the internet and social networks, and all of those things connected with it, right? And so now, and that drives more big data and so on and so forth. So organizations are trying to grapple with how to do this, and in comes AI and deep machine learning. Like you said, originally, we're kind of old school math techniques, and over time we get more into these AI algorithms. Tell us a little bit more about that, and then we can start to get into the impact on human capital and labor.
Yeah, of course. So then, of course, from that computation, that burst of computation, came frameworks. We got frameworks like TensorFlow and PyTorch, and these were, Promethean foundations for our industry, right? Like these things came, and everyone was like, "Wow, I can build a neural net in 20 minutes." So you had you talk about capital, right? The human capital part. You had people with a moderate amount of technical ability being able to run in 20 minutes on cheap hardware, and the foundations for an entire industry were born, right? Taking a middle tiered technical talent, tying them up with a middle cost piece of hardware that could change your business is, you only get that once in a generation when it comes to technology.
Yeah. And as this continues, the adoption of AI and deep machine learning by businesses continues to grow and
Absolutely.
grow over the last decade. And it just occurred to me, perhaps it's worth taking just a moment to differentiate. We use these terms AI, machine learning, deep machine learning a lot. Can you lay out for us a little bit about what those mean, what the differences are?
Absolutely. So we'll talk about the nomenclature here, right? There's an umbrella that everyone calls artificial intelligence, and that's like the top umbrella. It's the top tier. And underneath AI, you have, machine learning is one branch, is one thing. But if I wrote a million if-then statements, I mean, technically that would be considered AI. There's lots of strategies for AI, but the one that everyone is really interested in is machine learning. So you have AI, this is the top, and then underneath it is machine learning. Then underneath machine learning, you have supervised machine learning, which are most neural networks, where you have the answer in your data, and you have all the data that would support that answer. So let's say we wanted to predict, we'll say we want to predict an earthquake, right? Very black and white type problem. We have all this seismic data, and then we have the event that an earthquake happened, right? So what we'd say is we'll take all the seismic data beforehand, and then the answer when the actual earthquake happened in the past, tie them together, shove them into a neural network, and that would be a supervised machine learning AI problem. So we kind of work up the hierarchy that way.
So we are able to utilize AI and machine learning to solve business problems and to do some of the work that businesses need to do. And so that's where it really gets interesting when we start to talk about human capital. I mean, there's it's interesting in so many ways. But from the focus of human capital, we then start to get into all these concerns that people have around the disruption of labor and the displacement of labor. And now all these things I used to do in my job, now machines can do it. Now, I mean, automation is not a new issue as it relates to labor. It's been happening since the Industrial Revolution. But this is a new kind of way that we're displacing labor, isn't it? And so now we have machine learning that can start to do a lot of the rote types of things and actually do them more consistently, do them better than human beings. And so a lot of what I may have done previously in my job, now there's an algorithm that can do that, or there's various disruptive technologies that you can buy as a business, and it takes the place of your labor costs. And so what does that mean for workers moving into the future of work? That's the big question. And there's, lots of these big industry reports that have come out in recent years that are predicting, 80% displacement of tasks and skills, and what will employees be doing in future organizations. A lot of kind of fear mongering that talking heads have been doing. And ultimately the question then becomes, really, in reality, as you sit there as an expert in AI and machine learning, what do you feel like is the future of the impact of this technology on human capital, on the labor force, and then we can start to get into like, what can we do as people in the labor force to upskill and reskill ourselves so we're relevant, moving into the future. So, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, we are still employable. We still can contribute to the economy.
So this is why I was really looking forward to our conversation this morning, because this is something I'm pretty passionate about and I actually have experience with. So there's two groups or two lines of thought that get interrupted by AI. The first is the one you mentioned, which is human labor will be augmented or replaced by automation that's powered by AI. But there's a second way that most people don't think about that one of my clients, AT&T, actually had me build, which is AI to try and prevent higher fire events.
Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Academy. Courses, micro-credentials, and certificates to upskill and reskill for the future of work. All HCI Academy courses, micro-credentials, and certificates are designed, developed, and delivered by award-winning and internationally renowned scholars, educators, thought leaders, executives, and practitioners. Our courses, micro-credentials, and certificates will help you make your mark on the future of work and make an immediate impact in your organizations. Check out the HCI Academy and our many course offerings and certificates to upskill and reskill for the future of work. Check out our new weekly LinkedIn newsletter, Alchemizing Human Capital, exploring industry trends via original research and interviews with executives and thought leaders from across the globe. We look forward to having you join us.
If your company is really, really large, it's actually expensive to hire and fire people. It's better to take someone from one group and put them on another one. So we talk about upskilling, right? They literally wanted to build a program. They have this university program they have internally. And it's designed so that if someone wanted to upskill from, let's say, a data analyst to a data scientist, they'd be able to do that. And we'd be able to watch them with data along the way. So that when a new team is formed somewhere at AT&T, they can say, hey, we've been watching this person basically power through the data science classes. Instead of you hiring, why don't you go interview this person on another team and move them over, right? And then, likewise, let's say that someone isn't excelling in their role, but they're really interested in other products or other, technologies. Instead of firing them, you can move them to a team where they actually can be productive. And so if you think about AI as helping people play the enormous chess game of resourcing with humans, you can actually think about it as being this kind of incredible tool, right? Where people end up in the places they want to be. as long as they're communicating and somehow interacting with that AI. Like for the people that never went to that university, that AT&T university that they built, there was no way for us to gather any signal. So for the people that did interact with it, they got to the place they wanted to be. And it was an enormously successful program for them having that. So I guess to go back to the original question, like how do you upskill in a way that would prevent yourself from being automated? That's a real big question. I think there's two things that are fundamental to human nature that'll take a very long time, if ever, to be replaced by AI, and that's creative work. And it's also really, I know it sounds funny, but like the mathematics behind AI. So like understanding really fundamentally how the universe works, how our reality works with math or with science is something that's going to be very, very helpful. Because you will eventually have to teach the machines this, right? And then when it comes to creativity, any form of art whatsoever, even great copy on a marketing website, that still is going to be something that AI struggles with. Even though there's lots of startups that will help you build marketing, the best marketing, right? The marketing that makes its way into a marketing book 20 years from now, it's like, wow, remember that campaign? Those ones will still not be written by AI. So as you reach out in your job, if you think, wow, this thing is really just rote and I'm just doing the same action over and over again, you're in jeopardy of getting replaced. But the good news is, if you think about, well, how do I be creative in the thing I'm doing? How do I either go that direction, or how do I become more fundamental in what I'm doing? Like, what is the basis, the theory of what I'm doing? If you go in either of those directions, you will end up finding a safe harbor in a place where your skill sets are the opposites, very much in demand. You get paid a fortune for it. So I would consider those two paths, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I love how you're working to utilize this big data from an HR perspective to help with the human capital within the organization, because
it was actually the HR department that hired me.
Exactly. Yeah. And so HR in the role of data analytics and HRIS and the use of technology in HR has been something that has been growing, in recent decades, really over the last 10 to 5 years in particular. Organizations, especially the really large ones, they're trying to figure out how to do exactly what you just mentioned, because hiring people, going through the recruitment process, making hiring decisions, and then going through the onboarding and really ingraining someone into the organization, getting them productive, that's super expensive, like you said. And then when people leave, the cost associated with turnover is huge. And so attracting and retaining really good talent is really, really important. And it's an important thing, especially right now. People talk about the Great Resignation or the Great Awakening or whatever you want to call it. The reality is it's a tight labor market. Organizations are having a hard time getting good skilled people. And so you can't afford to, there's not a great fit to just let someone go. Maybe there's not a great fit in the current position that they're in, like you were talking about. That doesn't mean they can't be a great person somewhere else in the organization. Or maybe they just were hired at the wrong level. Like, maybe, a lot of times people get hired into managerial or supervisory roles and they suck as managers or leaders, but they're actually really good with the technical skill to be able to do, the job maybe a rung down, so to speak, or whatever. Like
Peter principle, right?
Exactly. Like there's so many different places that you can utilize people. And in an economy where you have a gazillion applicants for every position, you can let labor go. You can catch the fish and then let it go, right? And you don't need to worry about it. But right now, like, you just can't do that. And as we're moving into the future of work, I think more and more organizations have to be very mindful of that. And this whole upskilling and reskilling thing is only going to continue as it's just like every other form of automation and disruption that has happened throughout the different waves of the Industrial Revolution. People talk about how we're in the fourth wave right now. You have to, like, people will have work that they do disrupted and displaced, right? Machines can do it. They can do it better, more consistently, faster, more just better for the organization. So as that happens, does that mean humans are obsolete? Humans don't need to work anymore? Of course not. It just means they're going to be doing different things, and they're going to be doing things we haven't even thought of yet. In the creation of new jobs and new industries and new, all sorts of stuff. Right? We just haven't even conceived of it yet. But the question then is, well, what do you do when the pace of change is so rapid? How do you reskill and upskill people to keep up with the pace of change so that you can continually be moving into the future of technology and of work and everything around that? And so what you were describing at AT&T is a really great approach. You utilize big data, you utilize algorithms and AI and machine learning to be able to help you make those decisions and to align people better. And you can proactively do it. So you don't even need to wait for the person to say, I really am interested in this. I want to go into this. You can start to predict those things, and you can start to ping people, and you can start to nudge them in the directions where they seem to have real aptitudes or where they seem to have interests. You can start to get them involved in projects that will help them grow and stretch and develop. All of those things can and should be happening with organizations already. And machine learning can just help you do it better, faster, more efficiently, right?
At a large scale, like they had
at a large scale,
100,000 employees. Like
that's right.
It's impossible to have one person in HR try and upskill 100,000 people, right? Yeah. So you nailed it, 100%.
The other thing in relation to that, the scaling issue that you just mentioned, this is of course hard for any organization. It's going to be particularly hard for large organizations. And then what you end up having are generic skill development programs in organizations that employees tend to just roll their eyes at. Right. Like that, I don't really see the value in this. So I'm going to do it if you tell me I have to do it. Maybe if I think it might position me for the next promotion, I might do it. But it's hard to get wide scale adoption of things when they just seem completely generic. But one of the really nice things about adaptive learning technologies that are driven in large part by AI and machine learning is that you can tailor the learning experience with the tools that you have so that people feel like it's customized to them. It's adaptive to them, which makes it more meaningful and engaging for them. And they're going to be more likely to utilize it.
Absolutely. And, just to kind of dovetail on that, if anyone's listening and they think, man, I'm too old to reskill or upskill, you should consider an important fact, which is for myself and many other people listening, their job didn't exist 20 years ago. Like my job didn't have a title. No one could have conceived of it. A data scientist sounds like something like your kid made up, right? Like that's not a real title. That's not a real thing. 20 years ago, it just doesn't make any sense, right? That's like being, I don't even know. There's no even comparison to it. So if we consider the fact that many of us are in positions that we couldn't even conceive of 20 years ago, imagine what maybe 10 years looks like. And if you spent 1 or 2 years or 3 years prepping for that, you may be in a position, in a great position to get one of these new kinds of positions that pays well and is very insulated from AI. So I wouldn't consider anyone being too old for any kind of thing, especially given that right now it's not the 1500s where like you are a shoemaker for 150 years, like your whole family line is shoemakers. It's not that way anymore. Every 10 years, there's a whole new career, position, field, industry. Like the internet 40 years ago wasn't even a thing, right? I mean, it was, but it wasn't like an industry, right? It was like a bunch of people joking around and sending big, large medical files to each other and the military using it, right? Like that wasn't e-commerce. So if we consider that we live in a time where it's easy to basically be part of a brand new wave of skill sets, I'd encourage everyone to think, man, I want to be part of that and upskill with that.
Yeah, very well said, Luke. Well, Luke, I noticed the time. I'm going to have to let you go here in just a few minutes. But before we close, I wanted to give you a chance to share with listeners how they can reach out, get connected with you, find out more about your work, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Yeah. So you can reach me. Of course, you go to my website. That's arricor.com, ARRICOR.com. Or you could just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love getting messages from people talking about their projects. Typically my company helps service enterprise-sized companies. So if you have a ton of data and you have intuition around what you need to do with it, but you're not sure how to go, or you just want a ringer for a project, just go ahead and give me a call and we'll see how we can help. As far as that goes, I've had such a great time with you on this call today. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And as we wrap up, any final words, insights for listeners as they're trying to wrap their mind around this whole idea of AI and machine learning and what it means for them and their businesses, their careers?
Yeah, that's a big idea. I would say for a lot of people, keep an open mind. Don't be afraid of AI. There's a lot of opportunity. It's actually a very, very new field, and no one knows what to do in it. It is the Wild West. So if you're thinking, wow, this big, well-developed industry is going to come through and eat everything, including my business or my job, don't. That's wrong. We're all trying to figure it out still. And you can be part of that. Your company could be part of that. Your job could be part of that solution. So just keep an open mind to it, and don't view it as the big bad machine, but instead this really amazing hammer we all discovered, and you can pick it up and use it too.
I love it. Well said. Thank you, Luke. It has really been a pleasure. I encourage listeners to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Luke and his team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Bluer Than Indigo Leadership, the journey of becoming a truly remarkable leader. Early in my adult life, I learned about an Asian proverb that translates as bluer than indigo. If you think about the color indigo, it is a brilliant, deep, and vibrant blue, what some would call the bluest of blues. To have something that is bluer than indigo is rare and truly remarkable. Contrary to popular myth, there is no one-size-fits-all or cookie-cutter approach to effective leadership. There is no silver bullet, no secret sauce, no go-to model that will solve all of your problems. The truth is, great leaders have all had their unique strengths and flaws, and have all had to discover and then pave their own distinctive path in their life's journey to fulfill their leadership potential. Bluer Than Indigo Leadership will help you discover your own path and explore those ordinary, everyday actions that will help you respond to an uncertain future and produce extraordinary results for individuals, teams, and organizations. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership. Ordinary, everyday actions that produce extraordinary results. Consider how the nature of work has shifted over the past 50 years. With increased globalization, rapid technological advancement, and the shift in economic composition, the average job of today looks very different than the average job of 50 years ago. What will the jobs and organizations of tomorrow look like? Moreover, what does this all mean for organizational leaders? What are the core competencies and capabilities of organizations and their leadership that are prepared for continued disruption and geopolitical and socioeconomic shifts? Regardless of what the future holds, increasingly, leaders need to be socially minded, data-driven, decisive, champions of talent, and disruptors of the traditional notions of leadership, teams, organizations, and work. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership will help you to explore your own leadership competencies and capabilities and consider ways to apply and implement them into your workplace and personal life. Check out Human Capital Innovations magazine, Human Capital Leadership. Human Capital Leadership is a free, interactive e-magazine with the mission to help individuals, leaders, and organizations find innovative approaches to maximize their human capital potential. We publish issues quarterly in August, November, February, and May. Take a look at the latest issue and let us know what you think. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.